Hello, good morning, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. It's so very good to be here with you as we gather together to celebrate the magnificence and significance of the presence and power of God operating in, through, and as us, operating in, through, and as you. I will ground us in a reading today from the Daily Word, and we will use this reading as we move into our opening prayer. The word today is wholeness, and the affirmation, as a divine being, I am whole. As a divine being, I am whole. I know I am whole, wondrously made, and a unique expression of the divine. But I cannot truly know wholeness if I become distracted by an experience of illness or thoughts of lack or limitation. I do not resist limiting thoughts. Instead, I let the light of divine understanding dissolve the darkness of spiritual ignorance. Remembering that divine life lives as me, I affirm my body's wholeness even if I am experiencing illness. Growing awareness of the limitless flow of divine ideas reminds me I have all I need to experience a joyous, abundant life. As I say yes again and again to my true spiritual nature, my life becomes an ever-unfolding demonstration of wholeness. And again, the affirmation, as a divine being, I am whole. So from this place of awareness, I invite you to stop what you're doing and get still. As we move on up a little higher, I invite you to close your eyes and take an intentional breath in and an intentional breath out. Allowing yourself to sink deeper in mind, you take a conscious breath in and a conscious breath out. Settling in the realm of all everlasting good, you breathe in and out. Right here and right now, I remember that there is only one mind, only one power, only one presence that is working in all, through all, and as all, in me, through me, and as me, in you, through you, and as you. There is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect, whole, and complete, and that life is my life now. That life is your life now. That life is our life now. That life is all life now. God is here, and God is now. For God neither comes nor goes. We recognize its presence and it's magnified. We recognize its presence and it's illuminated. We recognize that it is, and we realize that we are individualized, undivided, particularized expressions of that thing. For we live, move, and have our being in God, and God lives, moves, and has its expression in, through, and as us. Oh, my dear family, you are the hands of God. You are the feet of God. You are the eyes of God. You are the body of God here on the earth. And as we recognize this oneness, we know that this oneness is something that cannot be severed. We know that this oneness is something that can never change. And so out of the awareness of our oneness, I speak this word in faith today. As a divine being, I am whole. As a divine being, you are whole. As a divine being, we are whole. And right here and right now, we take the awareness of our wholeness into the weekend service. We take our awareness of our wholeness into this masterclass. We take our awareness of this wholeness into this day. Recognizing that as we turn to the awareness of our wholeness, healing is inevitable. As we turn to the awareness of our wholeness, prosperity, well-being, and peace of mind in every area of our lives is inevitable. As we turn our awareness to our wholeness, good and only good is inevitable. As we turn our awareness to our wholeness, harmony is inevitable. As we turn our awareness to our wholeness, unity is inevitable. As we turn our awareness to our wholeness, miracles upon miracles, blessings upon blessings, and miracles upon miracles, and more blessings upon blessings are inevitable. And now we accept and allow. We permit that good to be. We permit those blessings to be. We permit those miracles to be. For as they are in consciousness, so they must be here on the earth. So it is with great joy and thanksgiving that I release this prayer. I release it back into the law, which is always in operation, always responding, and always becoming according to the mold of thoughts that we create. I am confident that the law always responds. And from this place of awareness, we lift up our voices. We say, amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
And so it is.
So it is. So it must be. Well, hello again. Happy Sunday. It is so wonderful. Excuse me. to be here with each and every one of you. So wonderful to share again on another Sunday as we continue to grow and enlighten and enliven ourselves. If you are a first-time guest, hello, welcome. We're so grateful that you chose to join us today. We are confident that you will receive something today that will support you in living an empowered life, support you in thriving in your life. Now, what you see here on your screen is how you can stay in touch with us and we can stay in touch with you. This is how you access your digital connection card. Just text welcome to the number on your screen, 347-472, 347-472-1078, and you'll receive a link. Click that link, enter your information. We just ask for your name and your email address and submit that information. You'll receive another response that says you're all set. And indeed, at that point, you are all set. You'll be on our mailing list and receive all the wonderful information that we send out throughout the week, all the wonderful updates that we send out. But more importantly, we're happy that you're here, and we're confident that something will be done, something will be said that will let you know that it was not a mistake. It was not an accident. It was not random that you were here, but it was indeed a divine coincidence. So from this place of awareness, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to tap into our news and updates as we then move forward with the meditation experience and we move forward with our class for today. Today is the third Sunday, which means it is God Talk Sunday. What is the God Talk? The God Talk is your opportunity to ask questions, your opportunity to learn how to apply new thought, metaphysical principles to the real experiences of your life. No question is off limits, but you have to be here in the space in order to ask a question for the God Talk. So if you're already on our mailing list, you have the Zoom link and information, Zoom link and password in your email because it goes out every Friday in our weekly email. If you're just hearing about this and you want to be a part of the God Talk, then what you can do, and you'll see this again throughout the stream, text welcome, the keyword welcome to 347-472-1078. Enter all of your information, including your email address. If you do that, then you will receive a automated reply in your inbox with the Zoom link and password. We look forward to you all sharing. The God Talk is always a wonderful way to really grow and expand. One thing I can say definitely across these 11 years, those that choose to attend the God Talk, those that are willing to ask questions, right? Those that are willing to say, I don't know, but I want to know. We have witnessed powerful and profound growth in their lives. This is also true for being willing to attend classes, but this is something that's absolutely free. So you may not be able to afford the class. That's cool. But this is something that's available to you every month at no additional cost, except you have to be there. So we look forward to you all joining us for the God Talk. We look forward to the questions that come forward, and we look forward to the growth and expansion that takes place as a result of us gathering together today. Every fourth Sunday is Healing Sunday, so that means that's next Sunday. And I'm really excited about Healing Sunday because I have something that I want to share with all of you. So I encourage you to make sure you're here, but also invite those that are in need of healing, those, if you have someone in your life that you're holding space for and want to see them made whole. I'm going to share some things and the ways that you can hold space for them, and also ways that we can hold space for ourselves as we are seeking healing of any kind. Healing Sunday has been powerful. We continue to hear wonderful things about what's happening in our community. What I know to be true is that prayer works at CSC, and people have been getting healed and receiving and experiencing healing in so many ways as a result of being in the vibration that is Celebration Spiritual Center, and as a result of being intentional as we have chosen to be this year with Healing Sunday. CSC will be closed Labor Day weekend. We will not hold service on Sunday, September 1st. So we encourage you to enjoy your holiday weekend, celebrate in the ways that feel good to you. And of course, we will be back together on the second Sunday, which will be September 8th. Tune out the fear, tune in the vision. There is a lot of stuff going on right now in social Of course, there's a lot of excitement related to the election, but there's also other things happening. And what's important during this time, as we are in the 100 days until Election Day, is to make sure that we're keeping the focus of our attention on what it is that we want, on what is beneficial, what is constructive, what is loving, what is true. And so I have gathered together along with thought leaders around the country to support any and everyone that is choosing to do that very thing. All you have to do is text JOIN to the number on your screen or go to myelectionintention.com to sign up. You can sign up at any time, although you may have missed the first few days. It's all good. What you will receive is a message every day that you can listen to around a specific word, and that will help you and support you in tuning out the fear and tuning in the vision. There are also additional practices. There's the weekly Zoom community check-ins, which is optional, but there and available for you to support you in doing this very thing. And I'm thinking about the lesson for today, because this is a wonderful example of some of the things that we can do to apply the teachings that Ernest Holmes has been guiding us through this summer. Our series of the month is What Is Mine to Do? This is a wonderful series also to support you as we are in election season. This was from our last presidential election season in 2020, and the lessons here still apply, particularly for those of us that are choosing to use new thought principles and want to understand how do we hold space for ourselves and others, how do we hold the vision, how do we show up in the world in the midst of the division, in the midst of a contentious election season. If you have a prayer request, you can send that prayer request to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org, and we will know the truth with you. We are always knowing and seeing the highest and best for every soul that is connected to CSC in any way. But of course, you may have a specific prayer request, or you may have a request that you want to submit on behalf of someone else. All good. Send it in to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. And we also encourage you, as your prayer is answered, as the miracle happens, as there's a shift, as there is a expression of prosperity, a prosperity report or a love story, let us know so that we can see how prayer is working in your life. Every Wednesday, we gather together for the Momentum Prayer Call. We encourage you to join us at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Wednesday morning, we share a reading, we pray, and we move on with our day. This is a wonderful way to be intentional about your morning, a wonderful way to be intentional about your mind, and a wonderful way to be intentional in the middle of the week. If you're unable to make the call live, you can always use the playback number rather, and then enter the access code, and the most recent prayer will play. We are in Masterclass mode. We are in the final weeks studying It's Up to You by Ernest Holmes. If you're just joining us for the very first time, we encourage you to join us. We also know that we get the question, which book are we studying, as you may come into the stream at different times. We are studying It's Up to You by Ernest Holmes, and we encourage you to have that in your library. And of course, you need the book so that you can do the assignments. And that concludes our news and updates for this Sunday, which means we now get to go within as we are led in the meditation experience with Pastor Yolanda.
Yes. It is time for the meditation experience. The name, the meditation experience, was something that we decided before we even opened our doors, because we knew that we needed to have a direct experience of God for ourselves, within ourselves. We can have all of the sacred texts and we can study them, and we do. But until you have that knowing, that belief, and that direct feeling of the God within you, all of those things are just information, useful information to support you. But that direct experience is how you know it's true for you. The God within you speaks to you. The God within me speaks to me. And this month, we are centering our thoughts and grounding our bodies in the awareness that we are safe and we are free, because the Spirit, the truth, the light of God is within me. We ground ourselves because the external world can feel kind of topsy-turvy, and it can have all of these winds and waves. But within us is the calm. Deep within us is the center of our peace. Deep within us is the power to choose, to decide who and what we want in our lives. And so we take time every week to do just that. Go within, affirm the truth, and feel it for ourselves. We've spent time this month starting with the root chakra, grounding ourselves with that understanding. We've expanded that and taken the idea of see, feel, imagine that light that is the divine moving in through and as us. And there's another important piece to this. We're safe and we're free. Freedom is not just the ability to decide what you want. Freedom is the ability to expand your thoughts about who you are. Freedom is the ability to choose how you think about situations. Freedom is the ability to decide how you respond to them. It's not just the freedom to have things that's important. It's the freedom to choose your thoughts. And when you are grounded, when you know where the power resides, you get to choose. And you are free to expand your mind. So let's do that today. Let's expand our awareness of the divine within us. Let's be free to grow and change. Many of us have been stuck in our stories, but you have the freedom to choose a new story, a new way of being, because the power within you is there to support that new way of being. So let's do that now. Go ahead and find yourself in a comfortable seat. Stop what you're doing. Being is the way. And so you bring your feet to the floor. You plant your palms on the tops of the thighs. You look around the room so you are not in the past. You're here with the breath. You're present. And from this place of presence, let's close our eyelids. And let's see behind the eyelids the peace, the safety, and the freedom that is available right now. We let go of the external worry, doubt, fear, uncertainty. And we welcome the safety, the freedom, the peace. And we let those things flow on the breath now. Let's begin by just noticing the breath. Noticing the breath makes sure that we're present. We're not thinking about a past meditation, a future experience of deeper thinking. We're just here with the breath now. And whether the breath appears to be deep or appears to be shallow, those are judgments on the experience, and they matter not. We tune into the breath that is flowing. The same breath that animates our body, enlivens every cell, and sinks us deeper into the peace. I am safe and I am free, for the power of God is within me. Let's take conscious control of that power and that breath as we send our focus into the low belly. And together, let's inhale for a count of 4. Inhale. Hold for 4. Open our mouth, relax the jaw, and sigh it out. releasing whatever we're holding for a count of 4. And sink deeper into the peace for 4. In to the low belly, expanding the low belly. Hold for 4. And without collapsing or constricting, just release the breath for 4. And rest. Let that power hold you for 4. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding the sides of the body, taking the fullest breath that you have in this moment. Hold for 4. And sigh it out. The sound carries the stress, the worry, the doubt. Let it all go. And sink deeper and deeper and deeper into the peace. Inhale, expanding the low belly, allowing the breath to rise. We've felt more breath on the sides. Now expand the front and the back. Hold there. And release whatever's holding you, whatever's keeping you from your safety and your peace. Sigh it out. And sink deeper, deeper, and deeper. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage. Now allow that breath to rise to the heart. Be connected low to mid to high breath. The fullest breath possible. Hold there. And sigh it out. And let it all go. One more time, in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, up through and to the heart. Allowing that breath to expand across the chest, across the back. Hold it there. And from that centered place, release the breath. Sigh it out. And sink deeper. Deeper and deeper. Let's practice a few rounds of this deep, full breath, but this time let's slow it down a little bit. Breathing in for a count of 6. Hold for 6. And sigh it out, sinking deeper and deeper and deeper. And from this place of a deep, relaxed state, take your focus to the feet. Let the feet relax. We keep sinking deeper into the power, into the peace. Let the ankles relax. Let that energy of relaxation flow across the shins and the calves. Give them permission. Relax the shins, the calves. Let that energy flow across the knees. Relax the knees. And as we send the energy across the thighs and the glutes and the hamstrings, if there's any tension there, give yourself permission. Relax the thighs, the glutes, the hamstrings. In fact, just surrender the lower half of your body into the seat, into the floor, into the earth. You are held. Let the peace take over. From the base of the spine, we send this energy up as we inhale, exhale, and allow more relaxation in the body and in the mind. Inhale, exhale, and allow. And let that energy flow in and up as you exhale and allow. The energy, the power cannot be stopped as it flows up and up and up and up and out the crown of your head. I am safe and I am free. See, feel, imagine these words and the vibration of these words going out into the universe. You are anchored, but you are also held and uplifted by these words. I am safe and I am free, for the power of God is within me. I am safe and I am free. Free to expand my consciousness, free to expand my life, free to expand my peace, for the power of God is within me. As we prepare for our silent time, scan the body and without judgment, notice if there's any tension. Lovingly send the breath to relax it. I will monitor the time. You take the inward journey. And if the mind wanders, it's okay. Be kind to your wandering mind. And when you become aware, bring it back to the truth. I am safe and I am free, for the power of God is within me, within you, within us all. Now, With our eyelids still closed, we remember that we are safe and we are free. With our eyelids still closed, we take the mental picture. We allow ourselves to feel what these words mean within us. And we allow the power to permeate every cell. With our eyelids still closed, we enjoy the mental picture, the physical sensation of peace and ease. And with our eyes still closed, we remember that we have the freedom to choose this feeling tone, to choose these words as true for us whenever we like. Let's bring back the power. Let's bring back our sense of safety. And let's bring back our freedom now. Let's begin to slowly wake the body, elongating the breath again. Deep, full breaths, complete breaths now. And together, let's inhale, draw the shoulder blades and the shoulders up by the ears. Exhale, release the shoulder blades back and down. Inhale. Full breath. Exhale as we release the shoulder blades back and down, nice and easy, no rush. Inhale. Exhale, releasing the shoulder blades back and down. Bring our palms together at heart center, and as the palms touch, allow the thumbs to touch the sternum. And if you are able, bow the chin towards the fingertips. We feel the feet on the floor. We feel the thumbs against the sternum. We feel the opening at the base of the neck all the way down the spine. This connection is not lost by movement. This connection is eternal. For I am safe and you are safe. And we are all free, for the power of God is within us. Allow the eyelids to gently open. And soft gaze, no strain on the eyes, no strain on the breath, no strain on the body. Inhale, raise the chin, raise the gaze, release the breath, maintain the peace. Namaste.
Yes, yes. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
As a reminder, every Monday is Meditation Monday, and so at noon, you can tap into, on Mondays at noon, you can tap into the meditation experience at any time. And of course, share those with anyone that you know is in need of tapping into that vibration and learning to be kind to their wandering mind. So we are in the last 2 weeks of our masterclass for the summer. It has been wonderful. It's been awesome. So we're going to spend this week and next week on this final chapter of what Ernest Holmes gives us in this final chapter are 10 steps, right? That he kind of, he uses a metaphor of a ladder, things that we can do, that we must begin to do to really apply and deepen our practice and awareness of all that we've learned in the preceding chapters. As always, if you have questions, send those questions in to truthsunday@celebrationsc.org. This will be the last week to do that. With the reading, so that we can incorporate those questions into next week's class. So let's tap in. All right. 10 steps in personal achievement. How do you build a ladder of personal achievement? There are 10 steps which I believe will help you live happily and successfully, and in so doing, help you to help others in the glorious game of living. So let's start with step number 1. Overcome negative mental attitudes. Your basic thought here should be, I can if I know I can. Negative thoughts will produce negative results, while positive thinking surrounds you with an atmosphere which tends to draw good into your experience. Successful people do not permit themselves to think of failure. They occupy their minds with positive thinking. This doesn't mean arbitrary or dogmatic thinking. Rather, it means a sort of good-natured flexibility with yourself, because you are the greatest single asset you will ever possess. Practice thinking affirmatively, hopefully, about everything you do, and this must include everything: your health, your happiness, and your success. Have a bright, happy, and cheerful outlook on life. Feed your mind with nourishing thoughts, just as you feed your body with nourishing food. Feed your mind with faith, hope, and enthusiastic expectancy. Replace every doubt with a faith stronger than doubt. All right, wonderful. So step 1, overcome negative mental attitudes. And so the thing is here, everything that Ernest Holmes is writing here is wonderful, right? We can nod and agree. But then the question comes in the how, right? How do you really do this? The world that Ernest Holmes lived in is different than the world that we live in today in 2024. So what is that about, and what do we do? And you wanted to talk a little bit about the negative attitudes versus positive attitudes.
Well, and it starts with just the word negative and positive. I didn't realize in the beginning, when we first opened the doors, that people had a very strict dogmatic idea about negative and positive, that people, for the most part, think of it as a judgment and as good and bad. And that's not what the word positive and negative, just in the overall sense, means. Because if you look at your thoughts as being bad or good, then you don't give yourself the grace to change your thoughts. You just operate from the position that my thought right now is bad. And so you either ignore the thought, or you try to manipulate, change it, push it. And so we got to get past the idea of positive and negative being good versus bad. It's just opposite. No different than a battery. Has a positive side and a negative side. The negative side isn't bad. It's just the opposite of the other side. And both are important. And so we tell people that no emotion is bad. No thought is even bad. It's just thought. But if you look at it as positive being good, quote unquote, and negative being bad, you will never examine your thoughts from a loving place and make the decision to change them. That's the first thing you got to understand about positive and negative. Don't judge the thoughts.
Right. And so this is then why Ernest Holmes writes when he says this doesn't mean arbitrary or dogmatic thinking. Rather, it's good-natured flexibility with yourself. And I love what he writes here: because you are the greatest single asset you will ever possess. And I think we could take it a step further, and it's your mind. your ability to use your mind consciously and intentionally. It is the greatest single asset you will ever possess, right? So when we think about, he uses the word overcome here, overcome negative mental attitudes. Well, I think one of the things is we have to also lovingly make an assessment, right, about our current mental attitudes, right? And there's a lot of ways that we can do that, right? If you examine what you're reading and interacting with on social media, that's going to tell you something about your mental attitude, right? If you examine and take an assessment of what you're posting on social media, or even what you're liking on social media, it's going to tell you something about your current mental attitude. Take an assessment. How do you begin your day? What's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning? What's the last thing you do before you go to bed? Right? Because what you're doing, and this is why he says here at the other side, he said, feed your mind with nourishing thoughts, just as you feed your body with nourishing food, right? Like, we know that, there are certain foods that if you only focused on those and only ate those, right? You just ate candy 24/7, right? There's some level of nourishment in candy, that's true, right? But eventually, not only would you experience, health in your body and internally, and challenge some of the natural functioning of your body, but you would eventually cause all kinds of problem with your teeth, right, and your mouth, right? So we know, in the same way that we understand that, feeding your mind with nourishing thoughts, right, and in that assessment, you may not know what nourishing thoughts really are, particularly if you're coming from this binary good and bad, which everybody has at some level in their mind. So nobody's absolved of this or immune from this, but particularly considering traditional Christian thinking that pervades so much thinking, regardless of how you were raised, right? That you may not actually know what's truly nourishing.
Right. You may think you know.
Right.
And it's just because what you think is familiar to you.
Exactly. And so one of the things that you can do to then start to overcome your negative mental attitudes, although you may not know what's nourishing, what's beautiful is there are resources, right? This is why we provide in the daily spiritual practice, practice the practice teaching, where we teach how to do a daily spiritual practice. We also provide a list of wonderful things that you can read. Right, so you can take someone like Catherine Ponder, who gives us, I don't know how many affirmations and positive ways of thinking and pointing in the direction of the lives that we want. Right, it's like, okay, I don't have the words, I don't know the words. Maybe I didn't grow up with an environment that really taught me what nourishing thoughts are, but they're nourishing thoughts here. So I'm going to use those words as my training wheels. I'm going to use those words as my tricycle until I get to learning to ride my own bike, right? And that's actually very important. I mean, one of the practices I still do, I take affirmations from so many different sources and I write them down every day till they become part of my own DNA, and then they come out of me sort of remixed with Greg Stamper on them, right? But that's very, very, very important. And also many times there are things I say that, I got from listening to Reverend Michael Beckwith every day and every night. There are things that Reverend Michael Beckwith says that he gets from all of the teachers that he's listened to and studied, right? It becomes a part of you. But that's how we get into this place of learning to overcome negative mental thoughts. You got...
I love this idea that you're talking about assessment.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we consciously assess what we're thinking on a regular enough basis. I was reading a teacher that I love the other day, and she used the analogy. She said, I overheard myself.
Yeah.
Having these thoughts that were running. Now, she didn't say I overheard myself and I beat myself up. She said there's an internal dialogue always happening. And she caught herself in the opposite of what she wanted. She overheard those thoughts. And so she brought love to those thoughts. She used mirror work with those thoughts, meaning the moment she assessed that it was an unwanted thought or that it was in opposition to where she thinks she wants to be, the overhearing is the signal that an assessment can happen, that a change can happen in the moment, not next week, not next month, that you can assess, overhear. How many times, if we're honest, have we heard ourselves saying, I can't do that, I can't be that, I can't have that? That's the moment of change. It's not next week. It's in that moment that you lovingly bring yourself to whatever tools, mirror work is one of those, go to the mirror and say something that is affirmative, supporting, life-giving, compassionate. It might be, the first thought might be, oh, sweetie, I hear what you're thinking, and let's change that. I love you in spite of what you're thinking about you in this situation. And then plant a new thought. What would you like to think? You don't wait till it all falls apart and then you get confirmation of what you've been thinking forever.
Right.
In the moment that you assess and you realize you overhear, think about that idea of overhear. You ever overheard a conversation, you tune in because it's so good? This is what you need to do. It's not hard.
Right.
It's not painful. It's not judgmental. It's just like, oh, what's going on in there?
Yeah.
And what do I want to plant in there?
That's powerful. That's powerful. And one of the beautiful things that we're talking about, overcoming negative mental attitudes, this is why and where meditation is so important. Because without the regular, daily, consistent, disciplined practice of meditation,
Absolutely.
you ain't overhearing nothing.
It's just what's going on in your mind. You don't even
Right.
think about it.
Right, you're unaware. And that's what meditation supports us in doing. And not in the meditation. The practice of meditation supports us doing that in life, out in the world. Right? And so that's one of the big things, right? That there's a tape running that we're not even aware of, right? And meditation is what supports us in actually learning to become aware. Again, not in the act of meditation. The practice of meditation is what's building that awareness.
Right, because as I say, be kind to your mind.
Yeah.
That's the beginning phases of how to even hear a thought, honor a thought, and release a thought. You can't be kind to something you don't recognize. You recognize the thought, you don't judge the thought, and you kindly release the thought, and you go back to your centering thought.
Yeah.
It's no different. We're not making steps that are hard. We're making it so simple that it's easy to consistently do it.
Yes. Yes. And while I've already mentioned it, I think it's important to state this, and we'll even share the link in an email. Your daily spiritual practice supports all of these steps that we're talking about. We're going to keep coming back to the daily spiritual practice because that involves affirmative writing. I already talked about that. That involves meditation. I already talked about that, right? And so it's
reading.
Right. And it also supports reading. So we understand that this practice is very, very important. And if you do not have a daily spiritual practice, if you've fallen off of your daily spiritual practice, that you want to go back to our YouTube channel and watch Practice the Practice. We teach the 3 steps, the 5-5-5 method. It's very easy, 15 minutes a day. If you have not achieved that level of discipline yet, that's where you need to start, right? Because it taps into so many of the other things that we're going to talk about and how you can then use your daily spiritual practice to climb this ladder, this metaphor that Ernest Holmes is talking to us about. And so in step number 2, learn to stop worrying. In the first place, worry is an acquired habit. Did you know that? I was just talking to PY about this the other day. It wasn't even related to this reading. That a lot of times there are people that take on the personality trait as though it's a badge of honor. Oh, I'm just a worrier, right? Like they're the one in the family that is always, thinking about the other all the things that need to get done. Now, of course, we all have things that need to get done. There's a checklist, there's a to-do list, right? But when someone says, oh, I'm the worrier, like it's a badge of honor, I can guarantee that pattern of behavior, that acquired habit, probably comes from childhood, right? Probably comes from an experience where they felt and learned as a survival tactic that they needed to worry. Otherwise, they may not have had a successful childhood, right? They may have grown up with a drug-addicted parent or grown up with an alcoholic parent, right? And so as a child, you had to worry because the parent wasn't worried, right? There are children that had to worry about making sure that the light bill was paid because their parent wasn't capable of doing that. And so then this has become they think a badge of honor. Oh, I'm the worrier. It's an acquired habit. It's not you, right? It's not the truth of you, the divine that is you. Okay, so in first place, worry is an acquired habit. You didn't worry when you were a child. And as I just said, some people did, but it was you learned that. There was probably maybe at the beginning of infancy, right? There is a moment where you didn't worry as a child. It is the greatest energy waster we have, not only depressing the mind, but the physical system as well. It actually congests and retards circulation. One of the things I love, worry is a prayer for chaos. Right? If you study,
Go ahead.
If you study the worry habit, you will find that you are either worrying about the past or the outlook for the future or the things that are happening today. Worrying about the past will not help anyone. Never look backward except to learn from experience. You do not have to carry negative experiences along with you. Each day say to yourself, the past is gone and I need no longer carry it along with me. Loose it and let it go and look forward to the future with hope. Build up a great idea of yourself the way you would like to be and work toward it, knowing that God is your partner and friend and wills you to be happy. Think, feel, and live this.
And it kind of builds on step one, because as we were talking about assessing what's going on in your mind, many people think they're thinking about a resolution or a solution to something, when all they're doing is regurgitating the worry, the doubt, the fear as they think on it. They're not opening their mind to possibility. They're just in this worry loop. And they think because they're thinking, they're solving.
Right.
And they're not.
Right.
They're just in a loop of thinking, well, if I did this, if I did that, and if I did, that's the worry loop. It's not the solution loop.
Right.
It's not opening ourselves to possibility.
Right.
It's just worrying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the mind will do what it does. It will think. You get to choose what it thinks about. That's how much power you have.
Right.
We all think that there are people that have more intelligence or whatever. We all have a powerful mind to use however we choose.
Right.
When you overhear, when you assess, when you find yourself in the worry loop, then you choose in that moment a thought to replace it.
Exactly.
And you keep thinking that thought until that new thought becomes a habit.
Exactly. Exactly. You've heard me say, I don't remember what sermon it was, but you fight habits with habits.
Right.
So if you become aware that you have the habit of worrying, then the only way to change the habit of worrying is to establish a new habit, right? Of thinking whatever the thought is that's beneficial, constructive, or pointing you in the direction that you want to go.
And beneficial is my favorite word when it comes to thought, because you can honestly assess, is something helping me? Is it beneficial to me to think this thought?
Right.
Not, oh, I'm bad for thinking this thought. Is this thought helpful?
Right.
Is this thought supporting me in moving towards solution? Is it bringing me peace? All of these is beneficial questions you can ask.
Right. Right. You know, it's interesting in the Second Testament of the Bible, and a lot of people don't know this verse. There's a verse in the Bible that says, all things are permissible, but not all things are expedient. Right?
Yes.
And so it's like all thoughts, you can think any thought, and it's permissible, and nothing, necessarily bad is going to happen to you. Nothing or no one is going to stop you from thinking that thought. But what we learn and what spiritual maturity teaches us is that not everything or every thought is beneficial. Right? Or in the right context, it may be beneficial, but in a different context, it's not beneficial. And so we have to learn to become aware and learn to really live in that space and place. It's also interesting here when he talks about you're either worrying about the past or the future or the things that are happening today. If you look back at the story of the crucifixion, and the crucifixion, according to the story, takes place on Golgotha. And Golgotha means place of the skull. And that's because the allegory and the metaphor of that story is that the crucifixion takes place in your mind, right? There's a conversation that's always happening in your mind. And that Story is a visual representation of it. And what's interesting, if you know the story, you know that it says that Jesus was crucified between two men, right? These two thieves. And the questions that they ask, one of them is focused on the past and one of them is focused on the future. Right? And in the story, what the crucifying of those ideas, right, of worry of the past or worry of the future, that was taking place in the place of the skull. That was taking place in the mind, which is where it must take place. That's what getting rid of worry is all about. Learning to stop worrying.
Absolutely. And it's a powerful thing to do that is really a requirement if you want to change the habit. It's really a requirement if you want to live the life you say you want to live. You know, we come across people all the time in coaching or spiritual counseling or just in conversation that they say they want something, but their habits show they don't. Or they don't know how, or they're not even conscious that their habits are not are in opposition to what they say they want.
Yeah. And I'll introduce this now because this relates to one of the steps, but again, I think all of these, they work with each other. This is also then where a gratitude practice is incredibly beneficial, right? And gratitude in a very specific way. Because one of the things we know and understand is it's impossible to be grateful for all things, right? We could look at what's happening in Gaza. We're not grateful for that, right? And there's a misinformed teaching that would say you're supposed to be grateful for everything, right? But we can be grateful in all things. And so when we talk about overcoming negative mental attitudes, when we learn to stop worrying, gratitude, learning to place the focus of our attention on what we are grateful for in the midst of, I'm also aware that I have this habit of worry. I'm also aware that I have this pattern of a negative mental attitude that I want to change. Well, how do you change that? You have to put the focus of your attention on the wanted.
Right. One of the things that I like to, when I'm coaching people, is to say it this way. We're so familiar and conditioned to think a certain way. You almost have to swing the pendulum, the meter, all the way over. It almost feels like this is too much gratitude. This is too much thinking about what I want. Because then it creates the momentum to bring it back and let this new normal be your normal. What you think is normal is not helping you.
Right.
And how do you know? We talk about assessing, listening. You also know how you feel. Feeling is a result of what you think consciously or unconsciously.
And it's the first manifestation.
It's the very first, it's one of the most beautiful things I ever learned from Abraham. Feeling is the first manifestation. And that's like, as Abraham Hicks says, well, if you got hit over the head with a brick every time, you would instantly change your thinking. But life is kinder than that.
Right.
It gives you feeling tone.
Right.
It gives you a sense of, if I'm worrying, then my body doesn't feel right. I feel agitated. I feel unsettled. Those are feelings.
Right. I can't eat. I feel sick to
I
my
can't
stomach.
sleep.
I can't sleep.
Whatever
Right.
those, that's how you know where the pattern of thought has gained momentum and as manifesting, expressing in your body.
Yep.
So we have all these clues that we don't listen to because the pattern of our thinking is more powerful than these subtle clues and cues and loving confirmation of, is this what I really want? Is this beneficial? I know it's not beneficial because it don't feel good.
Right.
And so it's a lot more kind than we're letting the process be of changing our habits.
Yeah.
But if you notice a feeling that's unwanted, you don't judge that either.
Exactly.
Right? If you notice that the battery is low, you just change the battery.
In the moment.
In the moment. And sometimes, as I said, you gotta move that meter all the way over to the other side. That means you might have to think this new pattern away for a long time, what feels like a long time. What I also find is many people think they're thinking, but they're not consistently thinking.
Yeah. I also love this quote when he says here, each day say to yourself, the past is gone and I need no longer carry it along with me. Right? Erykah Badu said, pack light. Right? Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. Right? Course in Miracles says the past is over. It can touch me not, right? Like, it's important that we live in that awareness. And sometimes there's an unawareness. This just happened for me this week. I've been in this beautiful process of release, and I heard within my spirit all week was like, there's some things you need to throw out. There's some things you need to let go of, right? I have all of these legal documents that were very important, and I needed to keep them for the period of time that I kept them, but I actually don't need them anymore. And as I began to go through those documents, I realized there was other stuff that I had that energetically I was holding on to that was no longer a part of my identity, was no longer part of something that I wanted. I mean, it was a literal purge. Like, as I was touching the documents, I was like, ew, like, I can't believe that I have this. Am I telling the truth? That's exactly what I was doing in the moment, right? Because I needed to release those things, right? I no longer want to carry that with me energetically. In my mind, I had healed and shifted and changed, but I physically had those things. Right? And so this is another thing, another way that you can learn to stop worrying. There's some releasing that you need to do. Forgiveness is a part of that releasing, right? But it may be physically throwing some things away, right? It may be throwing some clothes away, clearing out, whatever it looks like. But that's actually one of the key and important steps to living in this place of absolute prosperity and well-being.
And the other thing that he did, which was beautiful, is as he was purging physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally purging, he was affirming something. So it's not just you throw things out. You don't just cut people off, right? As you release and create space, you got to fill that space with something, or the old ideas, the old habits will fill it again.
Yep. I had a Louise Hay affirmation. I joyously release the past. I have peace. And I added, and I am free, right? That's what, and so with every I was like, oh Lord, I don't need this. I don't want to hold. That's what I literally was speaking out loud, right? And in every utterance, I felt release and relief. I felt lighter.
And see, that's the other piece, right? So he didn't just do the steps. He acknowledged the change. He acknowledged how it felt in him to do the work, the emotional, spiritual, physical work of release. He acknowledged how it felt different than in the past.
All right.
Good stuff, y'all.
Yeah. Step number 3. Overcome any sense of inferiority. To begin with, realize that life has made you a little different from anyone else. You do not have to imitate. While you can and should learn from others, you can never be anyone but yourself, and no one can be you for you. Suppose you take this thought, if God be for me, who can be against me? As I love to say, if God be in me, who or what can be against me? Do not be afraid to look yourself squarely in the face. Do not be afraid to analyze your negative thoughts so that every denial of your good, you can affirm the opposite. This thing we hear so much about, called the inferiority complex, is, after all, only a mental outlook on life. It is merely a denial that there is a power greater than you are, a power great enough to overcome every obstacle. And I love that this step is in here, particularly for Black people, for Black and brown people. I love that this is in here, particularly for our LGBTQ plus folk. I love that this is in here, particularly for women, right? Because we have been born into a world that is telling us who we're not, right? We have been born into a world that says that we are incapable, that there's something wrong with us. I love one of the things that I've been seeing Vice President Kamala Harris do across the campaign trail. I've seen several videos this week. Every young girl that she meets, she speaks life into them. I saw her speaking to this one little girl, came over, had on a superhero cape. And she immediately acknowledged her cape and was like, oh, I left my cape at home, right? And she began to affirm her and talk to her. Then there was another video where she was talking to these 2 young ladies. She said to one lady, she said, anytime you want to lead on something, don't ask for permission, just lead. And then she said to these other little girls, she said, put your chin up. You're amazing. And so it's important, right, that we learn to live in this way to overcome any sense of inferiority, to understand the truth of who and what we are, that life itself decided it wanted to experience itself as you. And that's why you're here. You may be a little different from anyone else, but you do not have to imitate. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And you should be different from
Yes.
everybody else. God does not make copies of itself. It keeps creating and expanding and creating in new ways. One of my favorite things in A Course in Miracles is this idea of false humility.
Yeah, talk about it.
The idea that we are not as great as God made us to be. That someone else can decide how great we are. And the idea that we've been taught, I got to be humble. What being humble means is I humbly allow the power that is within me to come forth.
Yes.
I step back from my inferiority ideas and I allow this power that's within me to motivate me, to guide me, to create from me. That's humility.
Exactly.
It's not I'm not that great. It is I am that great because the power is within me and I let it be. That's humility.
Yes.
I don't take credit for the power. I allow the power.
Yeah, there you go.
And if the power is within me, how can I be inferior to anyone else? I can't be.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah. And that's what Holmes is getting at that last line when he's talking about the inferiority complex. He's saying an inferiority complex, what people call humility, is a denial of power.
Right. And how many black and brown people have been denied and told, I got to be humble. Oh, yes, sir, boss. I got to deny my power in order to survive. It's an instinct. I get it. I know where it came from. It helped our ancestors to move through horrific situations.
Yes.
But we're not there now.
Not today. We're standing on business.
We're standing on business. We're standing on power. And no religion can take your power.
Talk about it.
Nothing within the scriptures or the truth of the word within these scriptures would take your power.
Overcoming any sense of inferiority, right? This could also look other ways. You may have been born into a family. You may be the youngest in the family, or there's the idea of the middle child, right? Kind of being lost in the sauce, right? And so that may be where your sense of inferiority comes from, right? That may be where and why you dial yourself back, where and why you dim your light, right? But when we look at the state of the world, right? And of course, what we believe and know to be true is that every act of fear is a call for love, right? So everywhere that we see all of the foolishness and mess that's happening on the planet and in the world and in people's lives, right? It's actually a call for love. It's a call for light. And so the last thing that any of us need to be doing is dimming our light, dialing ourselves back. Who you are, as we love to say here at CSC, is what we need. Who you are as you are. And so it's incredibly important that you overcome any sense of, I'm not all that. I don't really know, right?
Right.
I'm not as good as that person. I'm not, like that person.
You're not supposed to be like that person.
Right.
If anything, maybe that person is standing in their power and they can inspire you to stand in yours.
Yes.
But your power is not their power. You don't have to do what we do. You are here to do what you are here to be, do, and have.
Absolutely.
This is so important. It goes to the beginning, right? What is happening in your mind? What thoughts are you believing? I'm not that great.
Yep.
Is something you need to overhear yourself saying and change it.
Yeah. Because that's also a negative mental attitude.
Right. It all feeds, or at least the way that we read this, it's feeding on each other.
Right.
In a way of supporting you, not in this ascension to greatness. You're already great. You was great at the bottom of the ladder.
Right.
You take greatness with you as you climb the ladder.
Exactly. Right. Learn to stop worrying, right? Well, some of us are worried from that inferiority complex, right? You're worried about how you're going to be perceived at work. You're worried about what people are going to think about you, or how you show up in the world, or will they accept you, right? It may be rooted in this sense of an inferiority, sense of inferiority.
And you may have just, one of the things that I love is this idea of talking about assessing, overhearing. you don't hate yourself. You hate the thoughts you believe about yourself. Really? You don't like the way you think about yourself. And you just, I don't like me. I hate my body. It's not that. You just have accepted thoughts that don't belong to you as true.
Yeah.
I would hate a thought too that made me feel inferior.
Yep.
But I don't hate me.
Right. Right.
I have believed a certain way, and now I can change that.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, Roosevelt's quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy," is so important, right? It literally, there is no joy when you're doing that. You can't access joy in that place.
And joy is also a feeling.
Yeah.
So if you're not in that feeling, then you also, we keep giving you ideas of ways to assess and change. It's not just one way.
Nope.
It's what works for you.
Yeah. 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 Step number 4. Think about your personality. It is through your personality that all outside contacts are made. Who are you anyway, and where did you come from? You didn't create yourself, did you? Your personality has its roots in a divinity within you, in God, who is present everywhere. And that's important, right? Your true personality is what has its roots in a divinity.
Right.
Right. As I talked about the idea of, you may have developed acquired the habit of worrying because of childhood trauma that people then identify as their personality. That's actually not their personality. All right. So you didn't create yourself, did you? Your personality has its roots in a divinity within you, in God, who is present everywhere. And since God has made you just a little different from all others, you need never be ashamed of yourself. We always admire capable people, but the ones we really love are the ones who bring joy and happiness into our lives. A lovable person means more to us than just a person of great personal achievement. One we love, the other we admire. And it is better to be loved than it is to be admired. This makes the whole thing rather simple. Love others, and they will love you. You never have to impress people. If your attitude toward others is one of friendship, your personality will take care of itself.
And I wish this were a personality with a capital P.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the power that is personality. We're not talking about the circumstances that create our habitual way of responding as personality. That's a lowercase p.
Right.
Just like we have a capital R reality and a lowercase r reality. When we're talking about personality, he's talking about that power that is within you.
Yeah.
He's talking about the soul that knows what it is. And that is your real personality. Things happen in the human form that make us adapt to a certain way of being in human bodies that we call personality. But that's not the power that is within you.
Yeah. And so this is interesting. One of the things, and I know in the earlier chapters, Ernest Holmes talked about this idea of not praying to be sort of famous. But one of the things I think is interesting here when we think about how fame happens in our society now, right? We admire capable people, but the ones we really love are the ones who bring joy and happiness. A lovable person means more to us than just a person of great personal achievement. One we love, the other we admire, and it's better to be loved than it is to be admired. And why is that? Well, because we understand that the cycle of fame is interesting, right? And almost every truly famous person can tell you that they went through a moment where the same people that loved, that so seemed to love them, the same people that admired and celebrated them, once they made a different choice or showed up in a different way, all of a sudden they were met with vitriol, right? As Lauryn Hill says in her song Superstar, right? They'll hail you, then they'll nail you, right? Like it's important to understand that. And so we recognize that we don't want to live in that space. But the truth is that when we're operating from our true personality, which is love itself, right, and allow that thing to be the thing that leads and guides us and informs how we interact first with ourselves and then informs how we interact with others, right, then your personality takes care of everything else, right? You will always be with friends, right? You will always be with community, right? In so many different ways, because you're coming from the true source. You're coming from your source. Right?
Absolutely.
And so it's beautiful and powerful to think about that. But again, I want to underscore that much of what many of us have been taught is our personality, right? That, and this is even rooted in where some people, this is just the way I am. I've been watching the latest season of Love is Blind, UK, right? Shout out to Love is Blind for those that watch it. And there's one of the young ladies there who experienced real childhood trauma, right? She was adopted, and she has taken on, that's taken on a lot of meaning for her. She says that she was bullied as a result of that, because it's possible that she may have been one of a few, if not the only adopted child, and those children that she was around didn't have any understanding of what that really meant. In many ways, being adopted means, oh my God, you're really, really loved, right? Someone chose to love you in a more impactful way, right? I mean, so other people, have kids. They weren't trying to have kids, but the kid is here, right? So you could think of being adopted in so many wonderful, beautiful, affirmative ways. Beneficial ways, right? But she says she was bullied. She had all of these things. And so now she's an adult and she's in this relationship. She's engaged to a wonderful man. And she's basically saying to him, well, I'm this way because of how she said, I have, mental trauma from being adopted, and I was treated bad, and I was a bully. So I act like this sometimes. And it's like, sis, that's not your personality, right? That's essentially what she's saying to him. Those are things that can be healed. Those are things that are in truth malleable, right? Those are thoughts that she's kept thinking that have become beliefs, and then she identifies as her personality, but it's not.
Right. And again, we're not saying that those things didn't happen and it didn't have an impact.
Of course.
We know life happens and it can have an impact. But once you assess, you overhear yourself perpetuating an old idea that no longer serves you,
right,
then what do you do about that? Do you seek out therapy to help you move through the trauma? Or do you just put the T on your chest as I have trauma and you never move through it?
Right.
We are in favor of spiritual truth, psychological truth, like mental health, physical health, spiritual health.
Absolutely.
So we're not saying, oh, that didn't happen. We're not gaslighting you.
Of course not.
We're not bypassing.
Of course not.
We're saying that if trauma has happened and you are aware of it and you're aware that it keeps impacting you, then the choice becomes, what do you decide to do about what you're aware of? You don't just assume everybody's going to give you a pass.
Right.
Some people do that because they don't know any other way. We're offering you other ways. Yeah. We're saying if the trauma is there, and it ain't even him that's the trigger,
right,
the trauma is the trigger.
Yeah.
So you can't even put it on him.
Yes.
The trauma is the trigger, and I need to heal this trauma. And so that's important.
Yeah.
We're not saying you didn't have it.
Right.
We both know trauma.
Right.
We both live through trauma.
Yes. But it's not your personality.
But it is not who you are.
Right. All right, so we're going to read the last step, and then we'll...
for today.
For today, we'll talk about it. We'll do the next 5 next week and give you a homework assignment. Step number 5, learn to make your work easy. Ooh, this is so good. The one who works the easiest accomplishes the most. This is like a wonderful quote that you could like put up in your office somewhere or something, right? There's some of you that need to hear this and see this every day. The one who works the easiest accomplishes the most. Of course, this doesn't mean that you are not to put the best you have into your work. It means that you can let the burden drop out of your everyday activities. You are not carrying the world around on your shoulders. It is sustained by a power greater than you are. And the game of living isn't intended to be a sad, heavy, dreary affair. Easy does it is a great motto. When the strain is taken out of what you are doing, you can do 3 times as much without any sense of fatigue. You will generally find that it is mostly yourself and not your work that needs to be changed. When you get up in the morning, think, I am doing this thing and doing it with joy. This will really produce efficiency. Here, as everywhere else, know that you are in silent partnership with God. Try to feel that you meet God in the office, in the home, on the street, in people, everywhere, somehow or other. As you meet God in people and in things, God seems to meet you. Right? This is so wonderful. And I'll have to go back. I don't remember exactly what sermon it is, but there was a sermon from years ago, maybe 2013, 2014, around ease. And I just remember saying, what if life is easy, ladies and gentlemen? Right? What if? Right? What if life is easy? And so this is so beautiful to start to operate in this way, where you realize that you have a silent partner, that you realize and use a wonderful tool. I was thinking about this related. Abraham Hicks, in Asking and Giving, gives us wonderful processes in the second half of the book. And one of those tools is the placemat tool, where it's like you look at your day and you realize I have these 10 things to do, but you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this done? I'm mixing up the two. Turn it over to the manager too. And what you can do is, okay, I know I can get these 3 or 5 things done, and the other ones you just put on another list and say, I'm turning this over to the manager. Right, remembering this truth of what he's talking about, that what you're really working with, right? Understanding that you are in silent partnership, and if you're doing your daily spiritual practice, right? If you're waking up in the morning and beginning your day, understanding that's what meditation is about. That's what this practice is about, is reinforcing and reinvigorating your awareness of that eternal connection. So it's like, I really have a partner that I can rely on. I'm turning this over to the manager. And it's beautiful, it's powerful, it's amazing what happens, right? You can even do this, and I do this all the time, right? Before I go to bed, if I have something that I'm working through, or something that I need to get done the next day, and I'm like, I don't really know. And before I go to sleep, I just simply say, I will wake up with the idea. I will wake up knowing what it is that I need to do. I will wake up with a flood of ideas. And it happens easily and effortlessly. Why? Because I'm turning it over to the manager. I need to sleep. Right? I ain't going to be staying up all night tossing and turning. Not when I have the power that conceived of holds in place the universe and galaxies that I don't even know about.
Right.
Right? The thing that it decided that it wanted to experience life as me, which means it has already provided for me and everything that I need. I'm going to turn it over to the manager. And
it's so true. And it feels, again, because we haven't operated this way, it feels unfamiliar, and we are like, can I really? Is it really that easy? But it really is, once you practice and develop the habit. The other thing about ease, we talked about this a lot, as people of color.
Yeah.
As people who have come from a traditional Christian background where suffering is rewarded in the end.
Yeah.
We feel this inherent need to make life hard, so that we prove to God out there that we are worthy of its blessings in heaven,
Right.
someplace in the by and by. But if we understand where God is, and that heaven is a state of mind, and that we can access heaven now, we begin to do things that support life being easier, to reinforce heaven, to reinforce that God is in me, moving powerfully through me, that God within me provides me the answers, that life and love and freedom come from the power within me. When we begin to practice making it easier, when we let go of the word lazy, because the master said that we couldn't have a break. And if we took a break, we were labeled as lazy. There is no group of people on the earth as brilliant, intelligent, and motivated as people of indigenous people, black people on the earth. Don't let someone tell you and label you with something that they use to control you.
Yeah, how about it? Right. And you see how all of these things start to connect together. And what may be happening for you in your awareness is when we start out talking about negative mental attitudes, you're like, I don't have a negative mental attitude, right? But as you start to see the ways, as we're starting to talk about worry, as we're talking about inferiority complex and false humility, right? As we're talking about understanding what your personality is, you're starting to uncover, we're helping you make an assessment, right? As we talked about this idea of assessing your mental attitude, this is revealing those things, not because you're bad, not because you're wrong, right? In the same way that if you go take your car to get looked at, right? There's an assessment, and then you reveal what's happening. You go take your computer to be assessed, right? And it reveals that it needs a scan, that something needs to be removed, that something needs to be reinstalled, that something, right? That metaphor I could go forever on, but that's what we're doing. That's what's happening, right? And so we trust that this is already opening some things up for you, right? Then we're going to continue next week with the final 5 steps to personal achievement. And so what we want you to do is come back through this and go through the first 5 with us again, reread the rest, and any questions that you have. How do I do this thing? I hear what Holmes is saying, and it's wonderful, it's good, but he doesn't provide hows. All right? So whatever questions you have, we can answer those next week related to it.
Right. And just keep overhearing, keep listening. And if you don't like it, don't judge it. If you hear yourself saying, I'm not this, well, wouldn't you rather know what you're thinking than pretend to know what you're thinking? Than pretend to think I'm positive, when in fact, you have developed a habit and a personality that's not that. So many times in New Thought, you might have been here for years. You might have been here before there was a CSC in New Thought. And you think because you put time in, that you've put change in, and you haven't.
Powerful.
And it's not to judge you. It's to be honest with yourself. Is your life a reflection of what you think you know? Or is it a reflection of what you believe now and what you believed in the past? And this is a beautiful way. Is this beneficial to me?
Yeah. A tree can only be known by its fruit, right? And that's not a judgment. That's just true. And so when you look at the fruit of your life, right, is it ripe and delicious or not, right? Is there any fruit growing, right?
And we can say these things because we've assessed for years, right? We've moved through recognizing, ooh, Yolanda, that's not beneficial. Ooh, Greg, I can't hold on to these documents and say I want to be prosperous.
Exactly, right. Doesn't work.
And that's part of why we've always approached it the way we have, and being authentic and honest with you. We're not saying, oh, we never have those feelings. We never have those thoughts. We're always working from our true humility.
That's not how it works.
It ain't how it works.
No. Just like a gardener continues to till, continues to pull wheat, right? It's active. It's active. Which is why we put habits in place to support us in doing that activity easily and effortlessly.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you don't wait, right? Just because you had a good season a couple years ago in your garden, but then you just stopped tending to it. Well, now you're essentially starting all over again. You got to pull up all these weeds and, refertilize the soil. But if you continue in that process, in and out of season, right, it's a lot easier.
I mean, in terms of overhearing myself the other day, I've been doing a practice around abundance, and I overheard myself in the bathroom with the affirmation that I've been planting. And so I looked at myself, I was like, oh, you better go, girl. I hear you talking. Right? So it also works in your favor. That if there's a thought and you overhear that thought, that's a good, beneficial thought, milk it, as Abraham says. Keep thinking it. Keep celebrating yourself as you overhear it.
Absolutely.
But you got to get to that point.
Absolutely. So again, send us your questions, truthsunday@celebrationsc.org, and we're going to continue and finish up this chapter.
Finish up the book, actually.
Yeah. This is the final chapter. We'll finish that up. Yeah. So if you're behind on a chapter, whatever that looks like, absolutely, you want to get that done.
Oh, this was good, y'all. Was this good? Yes.
Yes, yes, always, always. And so it is time for giving. And here at CSC, we know something powerful. As you give, you receive. That is the truth. But of course, we must make sure that our giving is absolutely giving and not trading, as I talked about last week. When we give to get, we're simply trading. We're not giving to receive, because the receiving is automatic. So we don't have to try to manipulate the process. Just like the receiving is automatic. When you exhale, there's oxygen for you to breathe in. We give in love because we love to give, and we know that the process works. It's very easy to give to CSC. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, and give your preferred dollar amount, or you can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. There is a $10 minimum to text to give. And as we are in the consciousness of giving, and when we give, if you're not giving today, you're going to give later, whenever you're paid, that's all good. Make sure that you affirm this as you're giving.
Right, you're planting something.
All the money that I circulate
returns
to me multiplied. In a never-ending cycle. Of increase. And enjoyment. To that we say amen.
Amen.
Ashe. And so it is. And remember, we encourage you to use that affirmation as well in all of your circulation. Right? This is not a religious thing, right? Like, when I'm giving to my spiritual community, my spiritual home, I want to make sure I affirm all the money that I circulate. When you go to Macy's, when you
pay your bills,
right? When you pay your bills, whatever it is, wherever you are, right? When you're in the restaurant, I love to do that, right? As I'm signing the check, all the money that I circulate returns to me multiplied, right? And so that becomes and is the very truth of my life.
Right. It becomes a habit.
Yep.
So you think about circulation as a good thing. Like, oh no, I got to pay these bills. I get to circulate and it's coming back to me.
Yes, yes. Always, always, always. Well, we love and appreciate you all. We look forward to connecting on Wednesday morning for the Momentum Prayer Call, and then we will be back together next Sunday for Healing Sunday and to complete the Masterclass for this summer, which has been profound and powerful. Looking at the time, we always start right on time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the God Talk. If you want to be in the God Talk, if you want to ask questions, if you want to learn how to apply these principles to your life, and you're not already on our mailing list, all you have to do is text welcome to this number here on your screen. Text welcome to 347-472-1078. You must complete all the information, and then you will receive an email with the God Talk Zoom link and password so that you can join us at 1. We look forward to seeing your beautiful faces and connecting and, again, expanding, because the God Talk everyone, including us, we feel better and better and better as a result of being in the space, as a result of allowing Spirit to speak through us and use us so that we can continue to grow and expand in wonderful and powerful ways. We love and appreciate y'all. Bye for now.
Bye for now.